We've been sold a lie. The greatest deception in personal development isn't that success is easy. It's that perfection is a destination. Most people believe that once they achieve a certain level of success, skill, or knowledge, they can finally rest. They can finally be perfect. But what if I told you that perfection isn't a state of being? It's a process of becoming. The most successful people throughout history share one common trait. They never stopped evolving. They never believed they had arrived. Instead, they forced themselves to change, adapt, and grow, even when it was uncomfortable, especially when it was uncomfortable. Welcome to Force Yourself to Evolve. I'm going to challenge everything you think you know about personal growth and success. By the end of our time together, you'll understand why staying the same is the enemy of greatness, why comfort is the adversary of potential, and most importantly, how you can implement strategic forced evolution in your own life, starting today. This isn't about gentle passive improvement. This is about intentionally pushing yourself beyond what feels natural or comfortable, because that's where transformation happens. That's where excellence lives. Think about it. Everything in nature that doesn't evolve eventually becomes extinct. The same principle applies to your skills, your mindset, your relationships, and your dreams. So let me ask you, are you evolving or are you on the path to extinction? Let's find out. What does it actually mean to evolve in the context of your personal and professional life? Personal evolution isn't simply growth, it's transformation. It's not just about adding new skills or knowledge. It's about fundamentally changing who you are and how you operate in the world. Evolution occurs when you not only learn something new, but allow that learning to reshape your identity, your habits, and your perspective. Think about water. At 21 degrees Fahrenheit, it's hot water. At 21 degrees, it boils, creating steam that can power engines and move mountains. 1 degree, one small change, transforms its entire state and capability. That's evolution. The greatest danger to your potential isn't failure, it's stasis. When you stop evolving, you don't just pause your progress, you actually begin to regress. This happens because the world around you continues to change. Markets evolve, technologies advance, competition intensifies. If you're standing still, you're actually moving backward relative to everything else. Let's look at some examples of forced evolution in action. Steve Jobs didn't simply improve Apple's products. He repeatedly reinvented both himself and his company. He evolved from a college dropout with an interest in calligraphy to a tech visionary who transformed 7 different industries. Each phase of his life required him to shed old identities and embrace new challenges. When he returned to Apple in 1997, he cut 70% of the product line, a painful but necessary evolution that saved the company. Michael Jordan could have remained content as just a phenomenal scoring machine, but he continuously evolved his game. Early in his career, critics said he couldn't play defense, so he evolved into one of the best defensive players in NBA history. They said he was selfish, so he evolved into a leader who made everyone around him better. When his vertical leap diminished with age, he evolved a deadly fadeaway jumper. Each evolution required him to admit weakness and embrace change. Oprah Winfrey evolved from a local news anchor to a talk show host, to a media mogul, to a spiritual leader for millions. Each transition required her to let go of what was working to embrace something unknown. She could have remained comfortable as the queen of daytime television, but she chose evolution over comfort, continuing to reinvent herself and her brand. Now I want you to take the next 30 seconds to mentally identify one area of your life where you've become static. Where have you stopped evolving? Maybe it's in your career where you've mastered your current role but stopped learning new skills. Maybe it's in your relationship where you've settled into comfortable patterns instead of growing together. Maybe it's your health, your finances, or your emotional intelligence. Brief pause. Now identify what evolution would look like in that area. What would need to change? What would you need to let go of? What new identity would you need to embrace? This isn't comfortable to think about because evolution demands sacrifice. You cannot become who you're meant to be while remaining who you are. The caterpillar must surrender its identity to become a butterfly. You must be willing to do the same. Here's your first actionable step. In the area you've identified, commit to one specific change you'll implement this week. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait for permission. Force the evolution. Remember, in nature, species don't evolve because they want to. They evolve because they must. Same urgency needs to apply to your life. Your comfort zone is a psychological state where things feel familiar, secure, and predictable. It sounds nice, doesn't it? Safe, comfortable, certain. It's also a prison. Within your comfort zone there is no pressure to evolve. There's no stimulus for growth. The irony is that while we seek comfort to feel secure, the greatest security comes from being adaptable, from being comfortable with discomfort. Think about this. Everything you want, every goal, every dream, every version of success exists outside your comfort zone. If it existed within your comfort zone, you'd already have it. Discomfort isn't just an unfortunate side effect of growth, it's the essential catalyst for it. Your brain forms new neural pathways when faced with challenge and novelty. Without discomfort, there is no adaptation, no learning, no evolution. Consider Elon Musk. After selling PayPal, he could have lived comfortably as a wealthy tech entrepreneur. Instead, he invested his entire fortune into Tesla and SpaceX, two industries he had no experience in, automotive and aerospace. Both companies nearly went bankrupt in Musk could have retreated to safety, but instead he doubled down on discomfort, investing his last dollars and borrowing money for rent. That willingness to embrace extreme discomfort enabled him to revolutionize two industries simultaneously. The key insight here isn't just that discomfort leads to growth, it's that we must intentionally seek out discomfort rather than waiting for it to find us. This is forced evolution. So how do we practice getting comfortable with discomfort? Here are 3 strategies. First, implement the 5-second rule created by Mel Robbins. When you feel resistance towards something that will help you grow, count backward from 5 and then move physically. This short-circuits your brain's natural protection mechanisms that try to keep you comfortable. Second, practice fear setting instead of just goal setting. Identify what you're afraid of, what the worst-case scenarios are, and how you would recover from them. Most fears shrink when directly examined. Third, adopt the +1 principle. Whatever you're doing now, add 1 degree of difficulty. If you're running 2 miles, run 2.2. If you're reading 1 book a month, read 1.5. Small, consistent stretches beyond your comfort zone create sustainable growth without triggering overwhelming resistance. Now for your actionable challenge. This week, identify 3 activities that make you uncomfortable but would contribute to your growth. They could be small, like making a difficult phone call, or larger, like signing up for public speaking. Commit to doing all 3 before the weekend. Here's what's fascinating. The anxiety you feel before doing something uncomfortable is almost always worse than the discomfort of actually doing it. Your imagination magnifies the pain of growth. The anticipation creates suffering that the experience itself rarely matches. Remember, comfort is the enemy of progress. The most dangerous risk is taking no risks at all, and the most reliable path to evolution is through intentional, strategic discomfort. Transformation isn't an event, it's a process with distinct phases. Understanding these phases helps you navigate a journey of forced evolution without getting derailed when things get difficult. The first stage is awareness. This is where you recognize the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You see clearly that evolution is necessary. Many people never even reach this stage because they've surrounded themselves with comforting illusions and people who never challenge them. The second stage is commitment. This isn't just deciding you want to change, it's burning the boats, eliminating your escape route. True commitment means creating structures that make failure more painful than success. The third stage is discomfort. This is where most transformation journeys end, because people mistake discomfort for failure. They believe that if it feels bad, something is wrong. The opposite is true. Discomfort is evidence that you're in the transformation zone. It means your current identity is being challenged. The fourth stage is perseverance. This is where temporary motivation must convert to discipline and habit. It's where you keep going not because you feel like it, but because you've decided that your evolution matters more than your comfort. The final stage is mastery and integration. This is where new behaviors become your default, where what was once difficult now feels natural. The new you has emerged, but remember, this isn't the end. It's just the foundation for your next evolution. Consider Abraham Lincoln's transformation journey. Few people remember that before becoming one of America's greatest presidents, Lincoln endured crushing failures and personal tragedies. He failed in business twice. He suffered a nervous breakdown. He lost 8 different elections. He experienced the death of his fiancée and later the deaths of 2 of his children. Each setback could have been a stopping point. Instead, they became transformation points. Lincoln didn't just persevere, he evolved through his suffering. He integrated each failure into a deeper understanding of himself and the human condition. This evolution shaped him into the leader who could guide America through its greatest crisis. The key insight is that transformation isn't simply about enduring discomfort. It's about using discomfort as a tool for deliberate evolution. Here's an actionable practice to support your transformation. Start a transformation journal. Each day document 3 things. What discomfort did I face today? What did this discomfort teach me about myself? How am I evolving through this experience? This practice reframes discomfort from something to be avoided to something to be analyzed and leveraged. It transforms pain from a punishing experience to a purifying one. Remember, the butterfly doesn't just grow bigger wings, it completely dissolves its former self in the cocoon before reforming into something new. Real transformation often follows the same pattern. There's a period where you may feel like you're disintegrating before you reform into something greater. Our relationship with failure determines our capacity for evolution. Most people treat failure as something to be avoided at all costs. The evolutionary mindset sees failure differently, not as the opposite of success, but as an integral part of it. Consider Thomas Edison's journey to invent a light bulb. When a reporter asked how it felt to fail 10,000 times, Edison replied, "I have not failed 10,000 times. I have successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work." Each failure provided critical feedback that guided his next attempt. This isn't just positive thinking, it's strategic thinking. Edison's approach reflects a fundamental truth. Failure isn't the end of the evolutionary process, it's the refinement of it. There are 3 types of failure, and understanding the difference is crucial. The first is preventable failure. These are failures that occur from carelessness, lack of preparation, or ignoring known principles. These failures don't teach us much because the lessons were already available. If you fail a test because you didn't study material that was provided, that's a preventable failure. The second is complex failure. These occur in unpredictable environments, where multiple factors interact in ways we couldn't foresee. These failures are valuable because they reveal the boundaries of our current knowledge. When SpaceX's first 3 rocket launches failed, they were experiencing complex failures that provided crucial data. The third is intelligent failure. These are deliberate experiments designed to test hypotheses and accelerate learning.
When you intentionally try something you're not yet good at, knowing you might fail but will certainly learn, that's intelligent failure. The evolutionary mindset seeks to eliminate preventable failures, learn deeply from complex failures, and intentionally generate intelligent failures. Here's a story that illustrates the power of this approach. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx and one of the youngest self-made female billionaires, attributes much of her success to her relationship with failure. Growing up, her father would ask at dinner, "What did you fail at this week?" If she didn't have an answer, he would be disappointed, not because he wanted her to fail, but because not failing meant she wasn't pushing her boundaries, she wasn't evolving. This mindset enabled her to persist through multiple failures while developing Spanx. When manufacturers told her the product couldn't be made, when retailers wouldn't carry it, when patent attorneys said it couldn't be protected, each no became not a roadblock, but a research opportunity. The question shifted from how do I avoid failure, to what can I learn from this failure? Here's your actionable challenge. Create a failure resume, similar to a traditional resume that documents successes. This document lists your significant failures, what you learned from each, and how those lessons shaped your subsequent evolution. Don't just list the failures, analyze them. Were they preventable, complex, or intelligent? What specific insights did they provide? This exercise does something powerful. It converts shame into strategy. It transforms what might feel like a series of setbacks into a visible progression of growth. Remember, you can evolve through success or failure, but failure often teaches the deeper lessons. Success can sometimes reinforce existing patterns, while failure forces new thinking. In the evolutionary process, being wrong can ultimately be more valuable than being right if it compels you to adapt and grow. At the core of personal evolution is the concept of mindset, specifically the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, terms popularized by psychologist Carol Dweck after decades of research. A fixed mindset believes that your qualities are carved in stone. Your intelligence, personality, creativity, and character are fixed traits that cannot be significantly developed. This mindset creates an urgency to prove yourself over and over, to confirm that you have these fixed qualities rather than risk showing deficiency. A growth mindset, in contrast, is based on the belief that your basic qualities can be cultivated through effort. Although people differ in their initial talents, aptitudes, and temperaments, everyone can change and grow through application and experience. These mindsets create entirely different psychological worlds. In the fixed mindset, challenges become threats to your self-image. Effort is seen as a sign that you lack natural talent. Feedback becomes personal criticism. The success of others becomes threatening rather than inspiring. In the growth mindset, challenges are opportunities to stretch yourself. Effort is the path to mastery. Feedback is valuable information. The success of others provides inspiration and lessons. Consider Serena Williams' evolution as a tennis player. Early in her career, she relied primarily on her powerful serve and ground strokes. But as women's tennis evolved and her own body changed, Williams could have clung to her original style of play. Instead, she continuously reinvented her game, improving her net play, developing a more strategic approach, and adapting her training as she aged. When injuries threatened her career, she didn't see them as the end, but as challenges to overcome through innovation and effort. This growth mindset enabled her to win major tournaments in 3 different decades, something few athletes achieve in any sport. Her evolution wasn't despite challenges, it was because of them. So how do we develop a growth mindset that enables continuous evolution? Here are 4 strategies. First, change your relationship with the word yet. When you find yourself thinking, "I can't do this," add the word yet to the end. I can't speak in public yet. I don't understand investing yet. This simple linguistic shift opens up possibilities, rather than closing them down. Second, fall in love with the process, not just the result. Set learning goals in addition to performance goals. instead of just I want to get promoted, and I want to master the skills that make me promotion worthy. Third, seek out challenges deliberately. Make it a weekly practice to do something that stretches your abilities. Remember, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Fourth, change how you talk about your failures and setbacks. Instead of I failed because I'm not good at this, say I failed because I haven't found the right strategy yet, or I failed because I need more practice. This isn't semantic games, it's neural reprogramming. Here's your actionable exercise. Create a growth mindset action plan. Identify 3 areas where you tend to have a fixed mindset, where you avoid challenges, give up easily, ignore constructive feedback, or feel threatened by others' success. For each area, write specific actions you'll take to adopt a growth perspective. Set learning goals, not just performance goals, and define what progress will look like. Remember, a growth mindset isn't just positive thinking. It's a practical framework for evolution built on scientific understanding of how our brains adapt and grow. The brain is like a muscle. It gets stronger with use and stretch. Your intelligence, creativity, social skills, and character are all capable of remarkable growth if you approach them with the right mindset. We often overestimate what we can accomplish in a day and underestimate what we can accomplish in a year. This insight reveals a fundamental truth about evolution. Consistency trumps intensity. Forced evolution isn't about periodic heroic efforts. It's about regular, sustained action over time. It's not the person who exercises intensely once a month who transforms their fitness. It's the person who exercises moderately 5 times a week. Evolution operates through compound growth. Small improvements accumulate and interact with each other to create exponential rather than linear progress. Consider the story of J.K. Rowling. The creation of Harry Potter wasn't a sudden burst of inspiration. It was 7 years of consistent writing while dealing with divorce, single parenthood, and poverty. Rowling wrote nearly every day, often in cafes while her baby slept beside her. The first Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by 12 publishers before being accepted. What made the difference wasn't a dramatic breakthrough, but the cumulative effect of showing up day after day. When we examine almost any case of remarkable evolution, whether in individuals, companies, or societies, we find that consistency was the critical factor. The changes might appear revolutionary from the outside, but they were evolutionary in their implementation. Small, persistent shifts that accumulated over time. Here's your actionable strategy for harnessing the power of consistency. Implement the never to rule. Never miss the same commitment twice in a row. You might miss a workout, a writing session, or a learning opportunity once, but never twice consecutively. This simple rule prevents temporary setbacks from becoming permanent abandonment. Additionally, create a minimum viable action for each key area of evolution. This is the smallest action that still moves you forward. Something so simple you can do it even on your worst days. If you're learning a language, maybe it's just 5 new vocabulary words. If you're building strength, perhaps it's just 10 push-ups. These minimum actions maintain momentum when motivation fails. Remember, consistency creates compound interest in your personal evolution. What seems like small progress in the moment becomes transformational over time. The power is not in the intensity of your actions, but in their regularity. We've covered a lot of ground in our exploration of forced evolution. Let's bring it all together. We've seen that perfection isn't a state of arrival but a process of continuous evolution. The moment you believe you've made it is the moment you begin to fall behind. We've learned that comfort zones are prisons disguised as safety, and that intentional discomfort is the path to growth. The most successful people don't avoid discomfort. They strategically seek it out. We've examined the process of transformation and how understanding its stages, awareness, commitment, discomfort, perseverance, and mastery, can help you navigate the inevitable challenges of evolution. We've reframed our relationship with failure, seeing it not as something to be avoided, but as an essential feedback mechanism that guides our growth. We've explored how a growth mindset creates the psychological foundation for continuous evolution by transforming challenges into opportunities and effort into a path rather than an obstacle. And we've recognized the supreme power of consistency, how small regular actions create compound growth that transforms who we are over time. The question now isn't whether you understand these principles, it's whether you'll apply them. Knowledge without action isn't wisdom, it's merely information. So here's my challenge to you. Right now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but right now commit to one specific action that will force your evolution. Something that stretches you beyond your comfort zone. Something that once accomplished will prove to you that you're capable of change. Send that difficult email, have that challenging conversation, sign up for that class, delete that app that's wasting your time, write the first page of that book, make that investment, take that first run. Whatever it is, do it before you go to sleep tonight. Then tomorrow do something else, and the next day, something else again. String together days of intentional discomfort, of deliberate growth, of forced evolution. Remember the words of Darwin, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, it is the one most adaptable to change. Your capacity to evolve isn't just about achieving goals, it's about fulfilling your potential as a human being. It's about becoming who you're capable of becoming, rather than settling for who you currently are. The greatest tragedy in life isn't failure. It's succeeding at things that don't actually matter. It's becoming very good at something that keeps you from becoming great at something else. It's optimizing for comfort rather than growth. So I leave you with this final thought. Your evolution is not optional if you want an extraordinary life. It's not something to consider. It's something to commit to. Force yourself to evolve. Embrace the discomfort. Trust the process. Consistency over time will transform not just what you do but who you are. Your evolution begins now.